Adam Baldwin for AFLplayers.com.au. I'm now joined by another AFL Players Association life member in David Swan McKay. Swan, I understand that when the PA was formed, you were a young La Trobe University student, quite a radical organisation at that point in time. How did that fit with starting up, I guess, a radical movement like the VFLPA?
Well, at the time I was an agriculture student, so it wasn't too radical, but it certainly was a bit of a hotbed of radical movement, La Trobe University at the time. I think it made me think about social issues, and in particular, when I was looking at the AFL and looking at particularly finals, we weren't being properly recompensed. And when I looked at it in total, over the 60s, 70s and 80s, the players of that era, or those eras, were actually subsidising the AFL for the future. We actually paid for Waverley, we paid for VFL House, and those assets became really important infrastructure down the track, and they were sold off, and obviously the AFL have since invested into Etihad Stadium and also the MCG. So I think the players from that era really made a significant contribution to the future of football, and it's never really been properly acknowledged. As
a young man in your early 20s, what sort of influence was Jeff Pryor on you at that point?
Oh, he was a massive influence. He was the brains of the outfit. The rest of us were really the foot soldiers. Myself, Desmar, Ray Smith. We worked very closely with Jeff, but he came up with the ideas. He had the drive, he had the contacts, and he had the enthusiasm. And without Jeff, I don't think the Players Association would be what it is today.
And you're a Carlton player, and obviously working for the VFLPA, you had to advocate for Richmond players, who I understand there was a bit of friction between. How did you put yourself in the moral position to be able to do that?
Well, I think we were working on behalf of all players, but Richmond players were a rare breed, and at the time, I think Graham Richmond didn't want too many Richmond players involved. So as a result, they weren't as heavily involved as obviously they are now. But it was always hard. I remember playing on Jeff Pryor once, and look, I had a really strong affinity for him as a player and as a friend, working together closely with the formation of the Players Association. And it was out at Waverley, and he tore me to pieces, and I said, "Mate, aren't we mates?" He said, "Not on the footy field." So I learned a very serious, very important lesson. Then football's all about football. It's all about competition. And people off the field, you can be great mates, but once you get on the field, you've really got to compete, and that's what football's all about.
Just recently, we've seen the current players launch a Players Trust. How important is that for the, ongoing health and future of all AFL, VFL footballers, but also the current players recognising, the need to look after, their futures and past as well?
Well, I think it's a wonderful initiative of the current day players to be able to put aside some of the money that they've really earned in current times to support players from the past. A lot of players, I think as mentioned tonight, have suffered injuries, and sometimes they come up 10 years after your career finishes, 20 years, 30 years, and in my case probably 40 years on. And some of those injuries are serious, and some actually lead to debilitating conditions that really stop players from working. So I think the Players Trust, the AFL Players Trust, is a magnificent initiative, along with Jeff Pryor Scholarship, and also the other program that they provide, gap insurance, to cover things like operations that players might have to remedy injuries that they've got in the past. So I think the Players Association have been magnificent, and the current day players really, I can say on behalf of players who have gone through the AFL and VFL in the past, we thank you, each and every one of you, for what you're doing for us.
Thank you.